When you talk about choice, there's a number of issues here because Karl Marx had a term called fetishism of the commodities. And those of you who remember back to your political science and college days may recall that the concept behind fetishism of the commodities is that at some point in time under a capitalist society, probably think this is a strange thing for someone from Yankelovich to be saying, the choices are going to become very superficial and very meaningless. Nevertheless, under some sense of ideological indoctrination, consumers were going to be led to believe that these were very meaningful choices and we're going to spend a lot of time preoccupying and selecting among the choices. Building off a point that David made about the lack of talent and the lack of creativity, I would submit to you that if you take a look at the range and variation of most products and the range and variation of most media, 95% of those differences are within 1.5 to 2 standard deviations. There is not the true type of choice out there and differences, and I don't think we have a right to assign the virtue to choice based on the state of marketing and based on the state of media. Perhaps interactive media will create the true opportunity for those choices to arise. And maybe this is more of a philosophical point than a marketing point, but as I keep on hearing people talk about choice, you have to step back and say, well, what types of choices are we really talking about? Does the state of the free world hinge on these choices? And what are the real practical consequences of negotiating these choices in the context of consumers' lives and in the context of consumer satisfaction?
The notion of personalization is not a lot of work that you've got to go and do, because just by using the system over time, it knows who you are, and it delivers personalized information to you. In the perfect world here, there won't be any junk mail. We will only send you what you're interested in. And I think this is doable, certainly in our lifetimes, and we'll make a lot of progress on that in the next few years. We're making progress on it even as we speak.
There's going to be a lot of tests in '94. People are going to move quickly, I think, and you know, the country took 25 years to get to about 75% or 70% cable saturation. I think that you're going to see in the next 5 to 7 years that most of that cabled or the wired country is going to have some semblance of what you saw today in the Time Warner demonstration. Just an interesting notion in terms of the psychographic. I think David had mentioned that there's more money spent on home video than in the movie theaters. It's about $5 billion is spent on out-of-the-home movie theater tickets. Most people don't realize that $7 billion is spent in arcades, which is the highest form of interactive entertainment in the United States, quarter by quarter in the United States. There's 20 million Sega Nintendo machines out there, and a coming generation of people who have very different belief systems. They haven't yet become cyber cynicistic skeptics like, have you? Is that what you grow up to be if you grow up on that?
I'm open.
Oh, okay. But there's a whole different mindset. If you go to the Consumer Electronics Show and hang out in the Sega Nintendo section, you will think that those companies hired 500 or 1,000 kids to come play their games, and they're there because they love it. So it's a very different way of thinking that's evolving.
I just would like to echo that an important aspect of this is if you look at the media habits of the generations that are coming up into their and approaching their beginning peak buying purchases, the kinds of people that marketers will want to reach in the next 5 to 10 years. Everything we've seen says that their viewing habits, their entertainment habits, what they are used to doing and comfortable doing is dramatically different than it was for earlier generations.
The newspaper industry talks about a young people problem, but it's really not a young people problem. It's a societal problem that happens to have manifested itself among today's current generation of young people. 74% of all households with children 6 to 17 have video games. That's phenomenally high, just a few points less than VCRs. So I agree that as the young generation comes of age, they will matter-of-factly, with perhaps much less reflection, assume these skills and these orientations and modes of involvement, and as the older consumers, so to speak, pass out of the population, they will be replaced by younger people to whom this is not even an issue.